excuse me.
I mean,
Mayor Pro Tem Peterson, excuse me. Mayor Males,
Here.
all members are present.
Thank you, sir. There is a 3-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. Please state your name and item you are commenting on before speaking. We will take public comment for items listed on the agenda. Okay, so we have what's that? Ah, did I miss all that? Okay. Before we start, can Mayor Pro Tem Jackie Peterson please stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And before that, can Malcolm Lilienthal please give a quick prayer? Council members.
please bow your heads. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for being here in our midst. We pray that you keep your angels charge over us to keep us in all of our ways, and that you allow the eyes of our understanding today to be enlightened. Be in our midst, be with us as we make a decision today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, too.
Mayor, all of the comment cards we have are for the public hearing on 6A. So typically we would do the staff report first and then open the public hearing
Okay.
and begin taking
That
comments.
sounds good. And if this meeting goes past 10 o'clock, we're going to have to take a break. I'm supposed to be speaking next door, so we'll take a 15 to 20-minute break at 10 o'clock if it goes beyond that. Okay. So we're moving to the staff report. Over here in speaker cards, I will close public hearing monitor. Let me get there.
Mayor, I can begin
Yeah, go
giving the
ahead.
staff report on item 6A. Item 6A is the discussion and potential adoption of an urgency ordinance establishing a 45-day moratorium on the establishment or expansion of warehouse and distribution facilities in the city of Hemet. Before I go any further, I'd like to explain, how urgency moratoriums work. Under Government Code Section 65858, the City Council is authorized to adopt a maximum of a 45-day moratorium on specific land uses in the city of Hemet. That's because we don't have the opportunity during that initial period to issue public notice through the newspaper. So the initial 45-day moratorium is the maximum length of time that the City Council can set. And then following that is a noticed public hearing where the City Council would order the city clerk to publish in the newspaper and to hold a public hearing at a regular City Council meeting for any potential extensions. Typically, you have the initial 45-day moratorium period, and then we hold a public hearing at a regular City Council meeting, typically about 30 days later, where the moratorium can be extended for a maximum of 10 months and 15 days. Those seem like two strange numbers. When you put them together, it equals 1 year. After that, the City Council has the option to extend it for another 1-year period. The purpose of a urgency ordinance that imposes a moratorium is to allow for the City Council to study its current zoning practices and either update those regulations to mitigate any concerns or effects of the community, or to look at alternative land use proposals. This has been a topic that has come before the City Council during public comment, not on the agenda, for the last several meetings. The council's aware I've had to inform public speakers that unfortunately, because the item's not on the agenda, the City Council didn't have the ability to respond and have that discussion. Today it is on the agenda, so we're going to be able to have that conversation that I think the public and the council has been wanting to have. The reasons that we have included in the moratorium for considering a 45-day pause on these and potential extensions is the rapid increase in warehouse development proposals. If you had asked me 2 years ago whether the city of Hemet was going to become a logistics hub, I would have told you no. It's unlikely. The city of Hemet is not in close proximity to any of the major interstate freeways in our area. However, there has been substantial increase in the last 2 years, driven primarily by two factors that are my understanding. One, and the primary factor, the largest factor, is access to a labor force. A large number of Hemet residents currently commute out of the San Jacinto Valley to places like Ontario, Fontana, City of San Bernardino, or even further, commuting an hour and a half each way to work in these logistics centers. Those logistics centers have difficulty finding the labor force that they need to meet their operational requirements. And so while perhaps in terms of proximity to the interstate, we may be a little bit further, we are much closer to the labor force that they're needing. We also have significant numbers of flat, large parcels that are close to infrastructure and capable of being developed. So that has led in the last 2 years to almost 6 million square feet in industrial projects being proposed in aggregate. That has increased even more significantly in the last month as the state of California and Governor Newsom signed AB 98. AB 98 imposed a deadline of September 30th, 2024. Projects that were in progress, that means they'd been applied for prior to that date, were exempt from certain regulations that the state of California is attempting to impose in terms of setbacks from residential areas and other sensitive receptors. So there were a lot of projects that maybe were in the initial planning stages, but they wanted to get in before those new regulations came into effect. So that means that we've had a large increase in the number of applications. There are potential adverse impacts on air quality and public health. You've heard the public speakers come to the meetings many times before. They've referenced studies. If you look at the draft environmental impact reports that are on the city's website for several of these projects, they look into the air quality impacts of these projects on a project by project basis. However, the city council has not, and the community have not had the opportunity to consider the impacts of all of them at one time. You're looking at project by project by project. Same thing with traffic congestion and infrastructure. Logistics centers move goods around the country. They utilize a significant number of large trucks. So, just try to get through the 60-215 interchange. And you can see that, logistics is having an effect on our area. There's also increased road maintenance costs, and as well as just the potential of having these larger trucks on our local roads. And so you want to make sure that you have adequately studied that and you have truck routes that are capable of ensuring that those roads are built for that traffic and are safe for the driver. There's other environmental concerns. We deal with, you take a large piece of land that maybe was agricultural in nature or open space. You put we call an impervious area on it, a large roof, for example, and you take water that normally would fall and percolate, and you create stormwater runoff. I don't think I have to tell anyone here that the city of Hemet has a significant flooding issue during large rain events. And so you want to make sure that you adequately understand how those structures, parking lots are going to affect stormwater, how we are going to mitigate it so that we're not making the situation worse. There's the potential for incompatibility with surrounding uses. City of Hemet has done its best to, I think, do long-term planning. But I think, most people would tell you that ideally you wouldn't have a large residential community adjacent to an airport if you could pick where things go. But we do have large residential communities that are adjacent or in close proximity to areas that are zoned for industrial development, especially if you're looking west of Warren or in the large parcels surrounding the Hemet Ryan Airport and along the Sanderson corridor. In terms of finding number 6, which I called inadequate planning and zoning regulations, I'm not certain that our planning and zoning regulations are inadequate, but in speaking with people who have institutional knowledge about when our general plan and zoning plans were created, those individuals had similar thoughts as to me, that it was unlikely that Hemet would have been developed into a large logistics hub of any kind. And so it may be that we need to look at those. There are also rapid developments in the area of best practices when it comes to the regulations. This is one of the most highly regulated industries in California at this point. And so it may be that you don't need to have additional local regulations. The state is already doing significant work. The Air Quality Management District is doing significant work in this area. However, it would probably be wise to at least look at whether those are things that we should be updating. I did receive some questions about, whether this is an immediate threat. I received those questions in the form of, I'm calling them questions, in the form of letter from attorneys representing some of the landowners and developers, questioning whether the city can make a finding as to immediacy. I know that there may be some questions on the dais about immediacy, and the thought process is pretty straightforward. Until you've had the opportunity to consider whether these updates are necessary, if you approve the projects, once they are approved, they're done, right? They're built, they're operating. It is challenging to go back to a project that's already been entitled and constructed and impose new additional restrictions on their operation, regulations, or conditions of approval. And so this would ensure that if we are doing approvals, that they are under current regulations that are addressing the potential significant impacts that the council is concerned with. Again, these are findings that are proposed for you. The council does not have to agree with these findings. You can modify any of these findings if you believe that that's appropriate. I did want to say that we also included significant information about, we have a lot of information about the potential impacts of logistics uses of warehouses and distribution centers. We also have significant information on the benefits of these projects. I spoke earlier about the labor force. We have a significant amount of Hemet residents and people in the San Jacinto Valley who work in this sector and who have to commute oftentimes for extended periods outside of this area in order to go to their place of employment. Having their potential for workplaces closer to home is a significant advantage to those individuals. In addition to potentially decreasing the area's unemployment rate. One of our economic objectives is to decrease our unemployment rate and increase our median household income. And you do that by ensuring that your local workforce has access to jobs at all skill levels and at all income ranges. The second area that we think it's pretty clear that there are benefits from these types of developments is increase to tax revenues from the city. You are taking, in the case of several of these projects, you are taking vacant land that has not been reassessed for decades, if not longer, or that may have previously been agricultural land, where the property tax rate is extremely low, and you will be constructing improvements on it worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You are looking at cumulative tax revenue impacts in the millions of dollars, if not in the tens of millions of dollars, to the city. That is potentially on par with the passage of something like Measure U. So you are looking at the ability to hire significant numbers of police, fire, and other city employees to provide services to our residents. Lastly, you're looking at infrastructure improvements. The city of Hemet receives many different sources for infrastructure, sources of revenue for infrastructure improvements. I'm thinking things like gas tax, county level sales tax measures, things like that. But I think the city manager has said on more than one occasion that our backlog of transportation projects, roadway projects, it is a mile long. Or maybe, I don't know how many miles we have of road, 60 miles. It's big. Projects like this pay for those improvements themselves. So signalized intersections that the city needs now get paid for through projects like this because these projects would have an impact on that intersection. Almost every intersection improvement we've had in the city in the last 20 years was paid for in one way or another, either directly by construction by the project or through development impact fees. And that's the last thing I wanted to mention. Development impact fees from these projects will be massive, one-time influxes of money in the tens of millions of dollars that will fund a significant number of infrastructure projects that the city has as part of our current studies. So there are benefits from these projects. Ultimately, it's up to the council and the community whether those benefits outweigh some of the adverse impacts. I think in speaking with the mayor, when the mayor directed that this item be prepared and placed on the agenda, I think one of the issues, and I think, that is mentioned here, is that we believe that there are likely significant beneficial outcomes to projects like this. We know that there are significant environmental impacts because we've looked at the studies of the individual projects, but we have not yet done a comprehensive study on where Hemet is and where it's going, and we've not had the opportunity for community input on those topics. So that's where you get finding number 8. Walking through the moratorium itself, just to make sure we all understand how it works. It is a 45-day moratorium. That's the maximum length of time. In addition to approving the 45-day moratorium, the council could direct that staff place the extension on the next available city council agenda. We do require a 10-day notice in the newspaper. I don't know what the deadlines are for that, if we could get on the next city council meeting, or if that would need to wait for one more. City clerk is shaking his head behind me. I can feel it. So probably it wouldn't be able to go on the next meeting. It would need to be one more. This would affect warehouse and distribution facilities. I've included a definition of that. We do not have a definition of warehouse in our zoning code that I could find. So I've included one here. This is essentially consistent with the AB 98 definition and ones that other communities have used. There are exceptions for commercial businesses. So, I'm thinking warehouse type businesses like a Costco or a Sam's Club or a Home Depot. Technically they look like a warehouse, but they are on-site retail operations, and that's their primary business. So we did not include those. It applies to all projects that have not received their full discretionary approvals yet. So that is different than, for example, the car wash moratorium that the city council approved earlier this year. That moratorium applied to projects that had not yet been applied for, right? So any project that already had an application in, was already in progress, they'd already spent a significant amount of money on consultants and applications and studies. Those projects were allowed to proceed, but any new project that had not yet filed an application, the moratorium applied to. This one applies to any project that has not yet received all of its discretionary approvals. We have received feedback from attorneys for 2 of the projects that had been approved a while ago. That includes I believe the Kirby project, Kirby Industrial, as well as National Tube Supply. Both of those are under construction right now. They do need a few non-discretionary permits, ministerial permits, something, landscaping plans. They were required as conditions of approval to do off-site road improvements. So they're going to need permits for those road improvements. It is our strong recommendation that the council make it clear that this moratorium does not apply to projects that have already received all their discretionary approvals and are under construction. We can specifically list those 2 projects. That might give counsel for those 2 projects, as well as their lenders, sufficient certainty to understand that the moratorium does not apply to them. It'd be my recommendation that we include amended language that specifically lists those 2 projects to make it clear, because we do want to bring certainty to those projects. On the topic of attorneys and litigation, I received pretty extensive correspondence from attorneys representing projects that have already been entitled, like the Kirby project, as well as projects that are in progress, like the Newland Simpson project. They have, I'll classify it as strong legal concerns regarding the city's imposition of a moratorium here. Although we have crafted this moratorium, I believe that it is defensible. I believe it is clear that the council can make the findings and exercise its police power in this way. I cannot guarantee you that the city will not be subject to litigation if this moratorium was adopted as is. We'd received those threats of litigation in the last day. We did have the ability to request a closed session before the city council meeting, but because of time constraints and not wanting the public to sit for 30 minutes to 45 minutes while I discussed the legal concerns with the council and wondering what we were all doing behind closed doors, I will tell you that we received threats of litigation, that I believe that generally that the city's position on the ability to enact a moratorium like this is strong, but that I cannot give certainty. If you want to go into more depth on what those legal concerns are and the specific analysis, we could perhaps convene into closed session either after public comment or at another time. Additionally, the exceptions to the project include projects with a total floor area of less than 35,000 square feet. The environmental impacts, the public comments are all primarily addressed towards larger projects in the 500 to 1 million square foot range. We have not received any significant concerns, and when we're doing the studies, we did not find large unmitigatable effects for smaller projects. I did want to note that that is a number that we selected, that staff selected based on a review of the projects in hand, the comments we've received, and the studies. The city's zoning code at this point draws the distinction at 400,000 square feet. So anything under 400,000 square feet is permitted as a matter of right in all the manufacturing zones. That means there's no public hearing on whether those can go in unless they're requiring a general plan amendment or a zoning amendment. So we brought it in a little bit lower than that. If the council felt that that was maybe too low and you wanted to adjust it or eliminate it entirely, that's entirely your prerogative. We have CEQA findings in here as well. Essentially, it's pretty straightforward. CEQA applies to projects that can have the possibility of a significant environmental effect. Here, we are putting a moratorium, so there cannot be an environmental effect if we're not doing something. That covers the rationale behind the ordinance as well as its operation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, Mayor or Council, or we can open it up to public comment.
Anyone on council have any questions before I open it up to public comments? No?
Okay, Mayor.
Okay, there's a 3-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. Please state your name and time you are commenting or on. Well, we know what you're commenting on before speaking. We'll take public comments.
It was noted that you hadn't opened the public hearing, Mayor. Can you open the public hearing and note the time?
Okay. I open the public hearing up for agenda for our emergency council
Okay.
meeting.
This is item 6A. The first speaker is Dick Clark, Mayor.
Dick Clark, please.
Following Mr. Clark is Teresa Acuna. And we do have a significant number of speakers, so I'm going to say who the next speaker is, and I recommend that you line up behind the speaker who's speaking at this point. After Miss Acuna, we will have Jen Forenza. There's a button at the base of it, Mr. Clark.
There you go. Good morning, council and esteemed concerned citizens of Hammett. What is an emergency? This meeting has been called as an emergency. The Cambridge Dictionary of English defines emergency as, quote, something dangerous or serious, such as an accident that happens suddenly or unexpectedly and needs fast action in order to avoid harmful results. Is this proposed moratorium retroactive as in that any warehouse project already in the system would be stopped? We've heard some about that this morning. Does this not set up the city to lawsuits? Is this city not nearly bankrupt from having to pay for exuberant insurance policies? Recently, Governor Newsom signed AB 98 that concerns warehouse building in California. Has this council received education by staff on AB 98? What parts of AB 98 affect Hemet directly? Could this proposal not have been on the last city council agenda? Why wasn't it? Why is this an emergency? Take the election year politics out of this proposal. Table this to another regular, non-emergency meeting. Throwing a quote, feel-good bone to your voters does nothing for the city and may even harm it. Thank you.
Hi, Teresa Cunha from Solera Diamond Community. And I'm going to be quick because you've already stated some of these items. My concern is why wasn't there more of a mandate to engage with the community? Why wasn't that more visible? Why wasn't it on the Facebook? Why was there no mention of this? Why didn't we really get the word out there so that we could express our concerns? Also, in looking up, other cities, Beaumont, Fontana, and other cities are starting to reject warehouses. And the reason they're starting to reject warehouses is because of the environmental impacts, the infrastructure impacts. So, a lot of these warehouses are near enough to residents and schools. And there's a significant concern about our environment. Right now, Inland Empire has the worst ozone in the country. Okay. And I have that report here. I'd be willing to share it with the city. It's called A Region in Crisis. All right. Very, very informative. And I think, we're all here because of the impacts from an environmental perspective, not to mention the city roads are in disrepair. It's great to have an opportunity for jobs. That's great. But let's make sure they're the right kind of jobs. Make sure they're not part-time. Make sure that we have benefits for those jobs. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jen Vanza, followed by James Austin. After Mr. Austin is Hillary Ross.
Good morning, everyone. Jean Faenza. And I'd like to thank the mayor and certainly all attendees for attending this really urgent question today. Could I see a raise of hands from Solera Diamond Valley? Okay, we're about quarter mile from the Newland Simpson project, just so you know. We're residents of housing of 573, 55 and over, compromised health. We have been in Hemet. We took a chance on Hemet, quite frankly. We all knew Hemet was probably the best place to go. We paid good money for our homes. We're concerned about our value. What I'd also like to discuss is the urgency. I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, for calling the meeting. I know it was called quickly. We pressured you for that, and we really appreciate it. Today, Inland Empire is 270,000, I call them big box workers. The average pay for Hughes and Marino, they're a big broker out of Orange County, is $19.01 an hour. The average work week is 27 hours. They can't pay rent or buy a home on $19 an hour. So while we appreciate the city manager for bringing business to our community, that isn't the business we want. We could have warehouses that have technology, that have data centers, that have biomedical, higher paying jobs, bringing a different economic to our community. We understand what our community is today. Let's build it up. Stop tearing it down. Why build an ozone, a diesel death zone like Fontana, Moreno Valley, Paris? Have you been there lately? I drove down Lambs Canyon yesterday from the desert purposefully at commute time, going out of Hemet. It was 3/4 blocked, leaving Hemet with vehicles, no trucks. And so this is definitely the Simpson Kirby project is not impacted by that, but definitely the Sanderson project. I want to get going because I know I only have a minute left. Businesses moving out of California, there's been a 35% decrease in vacancy in big box stores. They're moving to Texas. Southern California has the highest rental rate. Texas, all over the place. The health issues, the infrastructure in Hemet is already destroyed. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten a flat tire since I've lived here. We urge you to stop the big boxes. We urge you to pay attention to your citizens and do your homework. We really request a moratorium. This type of business is not what we're looking for. We're looking for higher paid that will bring more revenue to the city, more higher earning wages. I understand Costco doesn't want to be here. Trader Joe's doesn't want to be here because we don't have the right amount of income infrastructure within our community. Doesn't seem right to me. We urge you to pay attention. Thank you.
James Austin.
Followed by Hillary Ross.
Uh-huh.
Speaker after Ms. Ross is Steve Patrick.
My name is James Austin. I live at Solero Diamond Valley also. I moved into Hemet 3 years ago. I had friends that moved here nearly 10 years before me and visited them very often. So I was aware of Hemet community and perceived it to be a family community of people living and working here. Warehouses are not welcomed to the Hemet community. They are not people. Now to some reasons to consider from these warehouses. 1, traffic and noise from continuous traffic of large vehicles every day. This is especially a factor to the communities already built near the Simpson Warehouse Center proposal location. 2, air pollution will dramatically rise from these large vehicles through and around Hemet. 3, home builders will write off Hemet for further developments of new homes as land values drop for existing homes and open spaces for new homes. People will not look at Hemet as a place to live. As these warehouses go up, home values and land values will drop. Tax revenues will drop as people leave, as their home values drop due to traffic increase, noise increase, pollution increase. There are many reasons not mentioned that I've come to say. Warehouses will be the last nail in Hemet's coffin. Hemet was once a vibrant and strong community where people came first. We need to allow the people to have a say in the community. There are other communities in California recently that brought in warehouses and now regret it. Loss of land and home values, traffic noise, air pollution drove people to move out of those towns. Warehouses are not people and don't belong in a community of people. Thank you.
Hillary Ross, please.
Following Hillary Ross is Steve Patrick and then Roy Fales. And then I would ask everyone to make sure you're please speaking into the microphone so everyone can hear you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hillary Ross. I don't have a lot more to add, but I ditto everything that's been said so far. I just would like to say one more thing. I just can't imagine a new person looking at Hemet, driving down Dominigani and turning into Hemet and facing and seeing that great big monster warehouse as they enter. And that's just the beginning of the warehouses that they might see. Then they're seeing the 18-wheelers coming down the roads. I think that's going to impact our property values. I live in Solero Diamond Valley. I'm right there. There's new developments there with children, pollution, traffic congestion. I mean, you've heard it all. I'm going to hand out these flyers and keep it short. But you know how we feel. We don't want warehouses here. They don't belong here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Steve Patrick.
Good morning, council members and city attorney. Thank you very much for your detailed explanation. You've heard everybody say they're against the warehouses. I'm against them. What I would like to ask the city council to enact this 45-day moratorium and then come back and look at extending it for a year and just take time to digest what you've done. take time to look at the impact of the warehouses that we can't stop now, and then proceed further. Also, I'd like to make mention of the roads. If you've ever been down Warren and Stetson, you can see the divots in the roads that the heavy trucks have caused. When the blacktop gets hot, these trucks, they weigh so much that they actually put dents in the roads. And this makes driving on the roads, well, I'll just say unpleasant. So if there's going to be some type of infrastructure improvements, I'd like to ask that certain intersections such as Stetson and Warren be cemented instead of blacktop so they can handle the heavy trucks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roy Fails.
Following Mr. Fails is Eileen Reyes, and following Ms. Reyes is Mike Nguyen.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Roy Fails. I live at the Lakes at Hemet West, an over 55 retirement community. The Hemet Logistics, or the West Logistics Hemet project, something like that, is coming in about 5 feet from my bedroom. 5 feet. I have been voicing my concerns about this for over a year now. Now, according to the interim ordinance, if voted for, it will be in effect for 45 days, ending just after the election of the city council people. I would request that we go for the full 2 years, make a commitment for the full 2 years so we can really look at this. I can only hope that in this come to Jesus moment of clarity regarding unwanted warehouses, that we can expect the fullest time allowed. I think back to August when the mayor met with myself and a few colleagues at the Lakes in Hemet West, and we showed him around the property and showed him how close it was and how much damage it would do us. We voiced our opposition to the project and then were quickly countered in favor of the massive warehouse project. We were then offered that our residents would receive preferential treatment in getting security job positions at the proposed warehouse. I still don't know what to make of that. I urge the council to adopt this ordinance for the full 2 years allowed, or you can just stop approving warehouses inside the city where they do not belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Irene Reyes.
Following Ms. Reyes is Mike Nguyen, and then we have Ms. Priscilla Levine and Mr. Russ Levine.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Irene Reyes, and I'm a resident of Solera, Diamond Valley, Del Webb. I'm here to speak on item 6A. I try to believe in the inherent good of all people, and I try to believe that for the most part, people speak the truth. They do what they say they will do, and they are true to their word. Governance. Governance is good, effective, and fair. Governance involves a well-organized system that fairly represents stakeholders, interests, and needs. It fosters trust by promoting transparency, responsibility, and accountability. I try to believe that the true governance and those who govern the people, such as yourselves, are really and truly by the people and for the people. Those in governance are elected by the people. You 5 city council members are elected officials, and you have been elected by the people of Hemet. Lord knows you don't do this for the money, because I know your monthly stipend is approximately $645 a month. So you have a love of the people of Hemet and you want to serve them. Please remember that we are the people you serve. Please, we are speaking loudly and clearly. Hear us. We do not want mega warehouses in Hemet. The facts and the statistics are out there. You all live here too. How is it that as residents yourselves, you are okay with this? Ultimately, it's your call. It's your vote. If the warehouses are built, each and every resident will reevaluate their living situation or their options. Realistically, most in Hemet will not even have a choice or an option to decide if they want to continue here or to move away. But ultimately, there are those who do have a choice, and they will leave. Hemet will revert to the old reputation of a marginalized, poor, low socioeconomic, high crime community that has historically been the norm and the reputation in the Inland Empire. Recently, one of you on the dais has said, and I quote, "My vision is to bring more family fun businesses, quality restaurants, and provide a safe place to walk, shop, and enjoy the parks in our community." That quote is from you, Mayor Mills. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Wayne?
Following Mr. Wine is Priscilla Levine and then Russ Levine.
My name is Mike Wynn, and I, excuse me, appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council. I just have
Wynn.
2 questions. First, is there a way that we can extend the 45-day moratorium? It appears to me that it's a political dodge after the election.
Can you speak into the mic, please? I can't hear you.
The second question, oh, my voice, I'm sorry. So the first question was, can we extend the 45-day moratorium?
Yes.
It does appear to me to be something that was set up so that we can avoid the election.
Twice.
Am I
A
not-
total of 2 years. It can go up to a total of 2 years.
Yeah, please extend it for 2 years. The second question I have is for the city manager. When he presented a vision of Hemet to our community not very long ago, there was never a mention of warehouses at all. It was all just all the wonderful things that were going to happen to Hemet, but none of the, and he certainly knew about the warehouses being proposed or under construction. It was not mentioned. I would like to think, what I put here is, it does appear that that was a political dodge by the city manager. And I hope you support 2-year moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Priscilla Levine? Levine?
My concern is the Newland Simpson project. I live in the Del Webb community at Warren and Mustang. I moved here from Murrieta 5 years ago. We love our community and our folks 55 and over. And now all around us are new tracts of homes with a lot of young families. I won't repeat what you've already heard from others, our concerns. I can only say to you, our mayor and council members, how would you feel if there was a giant warehouse being built in your backyard or 2 blocks from your home? How would you feel about the health of your children and your family? Would you vote for this warehouse?
Thank you. Russ Levine?
Following Mr. Levine is Shaul Rosenroger and then Greg Lansing.
I live in Solera Diamond Valley, the Del Webb community at Warren and Mustang. This is about warehouse issues at Warren and Domenegone. These present low-paying jobs versus the quality of our lives. The proposal to construct warehouses in West Hemet is a terrible idea. Aside from turning our beautiful rural surroundings into an environmental nightmare, it will create truck traffic that we will be downwind from and breathing an increased amount of harmful nitrogen dioxide pollution. Warehouse operations also have severe environmental impacts. The emissions caused by storage and material handling processes also cause airborne pollution. Also, the diesel truck traffic will make getting in and out of Del Webb very difficult. And then there's the issue of warehouse diminishing our property values. Who then would want to buy a home with that next door? Also, our 55 community has many people with health issues, and all these warehouses do is exacerbate poor health, especially in the elderly. There is another issue with this proposal, and that is the damage to our local roads by their heavy-weighted semi-trucks. The roads in Hemet are already some of the worst roads I have ever driven on, worse than any big city I have ever lived in, including Boston and Los Angeles. The city of Hemet cannot keep up with the needed road maintenance as it is because it simply
can't afford to. Most of that road damage is because of the trucks that travel in our city. More truck traffic caused by continued travel by those warehouse trucks will cause so much more road damage that the Hemet roads will look like a master class in third world road upkeep. All I can say is that the idea of these warehouses anywhere near our community is the worst and probably the most self-serving idea anyone who is supposed to have our best interest at heart ever had.
Thank you. Shaw Rosenrager.
Following Mr. Rosenberger is Greg Lansing.
I will keep it really short. First of all, I want to note that today is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and it's the highest holiday in the Jewish tradition. And I think this day offers, it's kind of symbolic, and it offers an opportunity for you guys who, let's not forget, approved a warehouse in the middle of Hemet, the Kirby project. It's an opportunity for you to come clean. It's a chance for you to publicly say, we didn't know, the developer sold us all kinds of stories, and we apologize, and we made a mistake, and we're not going to repeat it. We know that the urgency of this is the elections, and we just want to make sure that this continues after, that this sentiment will continue after the elections. And by acknowledging that you made a mistake, that will give us a sense of that you're sincere. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Lansing.
Good morning, Greg Lansing, Lansing Companies. How many people are for Solar again? Yeah. So I've been developing in this city for over 25 years. I'm the original developer in association with Pulte and Strata of the Rancho Di Monte project where all these nice folks live. I remember hearings back 25, 23 years ago, kind of similar to this, where local folks at that time were opposed to the Rancho Di Monte project and the Solara project. And it's mostly just fear of the unknown. I think it's a wonderful project, wonderful citizens now. But at that time, people were concerned. And so I understand folks' concern, but I think the concern may be overstated. This project, I'm also in partnership with the Newland folks on getting the warehouse approved that the folks are concerned about. We've spent over 3 years roughly in studying traffic, noise, all the different aspects. So when they say, let's wait 2 years, we've already spent 3 years. We've invested millions of dollars. We're trying to bring jobs to the community. And I think it's important that folks understand that residents and homes are a drain financially on the city. It's the warehouses, the jobs, the commercial that pays for the police services that everyone likes and the fire services. So I think that's important. And people probably mostly don't get that, but that's the reality of the world. And so that's what we're trying to create. I think it's also important to point out that Highway 79 eventually is going to get built very close to this area. And so there'll be very little city streets even used by this warehouse. They'll get on Highway 79, they'll go up to Highway 74, they'll go up to 60, which are all state highways. They're not city highways. So I think those are important aspects to consider. Also, I think it's important to note that, you know, really there wasn't much notice given to this. I heard about this late yesterday and had to get out here, which is fine, because obviously we are concerned and, you know, we share folks' concerns, and that's why we do this responsibly. Also, this is at the heels of AB 98 that the governor just signed, which is a very restrictive ordinance, a state ordinance on warehousing. It's going to make it very difficult to develop warehouses anywhere. But I'd like to state that this project does meet even that criteria, and that's a very high bar. I think some of the folks said they live a quarter mile. I think Solar is about a quarter mile from the subject property. The new ordinance by the state is 900 feet distance, which is actually quite a bit. I mean, that's almost a quarter mile. So, you know, I think most residents want to see it. You know, traffic would go out to Dominguez Parkway out to Highway 79. It's going to be as minimal impact as possible, but it is important to bring jobs. City needs the revenue, otherwise police don't get paid, right? So I think that's all I had to say. You know, we respect working with the city. We worked with the city for many years, and we're hoping to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lansing.
And then, Mayor, we did have the Zoom link just in case, because of the short notice, there was anyone who couldn't make it out in person. So you may want to check with the city clerk to see if there's any.
Are
Zoom
there any
comments.
members of the public participating through Zoom that would like to comment on any item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just repeating what the mayor said. If there's anyone on the Zoom call, now is the time to raise your hand and we will unmute you and we'll give you just a few moments. Seeing no raised hands, there's no public comment.
Then, Mayor, I did just want to note the time is 9:53.
Yes, sir. If we don't get a motion by 9:55, it's going to have to be recessed and not recessed, but continued for 20 minutes. We'll have to have a 20-minute break. So at this point, do we have any discussion here and with the council at all?
Mayor,
Oh.
to close the public hearing.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
It's 3:54.
I'm sorry?
It's 9:54.
9:54. Do we have any comments from the city council?
This is going to take more than 10 minutes for me to talk on this. So if you want.
Okay, it's 9:54. We're going to go ahead and take a 20. I'm sorry?
The city manager is saying we can delay them a few minutes. If you want to do
Okay.
it at 10 o'clock.
All right, go ahead.
Quite frankly, I'm going to object to that because we gave everybody the chance here, which was absolutely awesome. And I want to thank you all for coming out. Citizen involvement is paramount to what we do in a city, but also all of us are going to talk, and we should not have one person and then a 20-minute interval and have another council member talk. I would prefer that we all get a chance to hear each other and hear it in continuous motion.
Okay. So, well, it doesn't start for another 5 minutes, so I'd like to say something. Some people mention that this is all because of the election. That's false. I grew up with my parents, my adopted parents, that complained all the time about these SOBs and politics don't consider the citizens when they get elected. They forget all about them. And I heard that with my dad all the time, just always complaining about voting for somebody, and then they turn around and do something different or do what they say they're not going to do. I'm not like that. I'm not like that politician. I'm more of a godly person. I pray and ask for guidance almost every day. And when I heard all the pushback on this, and I was pro warehouse because I know the city needed jobs. I know we have a different demographics coming in. We have younger people coming in, and you know, I'm old already, and I know that when I go, it's not going to be because of anything other than it's my time to go. I know that, but I know a lot of people fear death, and I know a lot of people want to stay healthy, and I understand that. But the thing is that this is because of my upbringing, listening to the people, and I was elected, and again, I can take this job or leave it because I'm not a politician. I'm a person that loves my family, loves to be with them. And this seat here, it does take me away from my family, which I don't like. But I do the best I can. I give 100% on what I do. And I have my Democratic friend here that's running against me. And if you want to vote for her, I have no problem with that. I don't have any problems with that. But I feel that if I'm in a position, I'm going to do my best to fulfill the citizens' needs and what they want. And what I wanted was jobs for the younger people coming in. Okay, shame on me for wanting that. But I see the outcry from all the seniors. I'm a senior, and I just feel that I have to listen to you, and that's the reason why I called this emergency meeting. I conferred with one of my council members, and who actually, you know, questioned the warehouses when they were coming in, and wasn't excited about it. But as, you know, and he's the only one I talked to because of the Brown Act. But, the thing is that, you know, we discussed this meeting and should we have it now, get it over with? And we said, yes, let's do it. And here we are. So it's not because of elections. It's not because, oh, we're getting pressured. It's because we listen to you. And that's what we should do. And I don't want you to call me a SOB. I mean, and I know that's where it was going. I know. And like I said, I'm not a politician. So I just wanted to get that off my chest and let you know that. So at this point, it's 9:58. No one else wants to speak. So I'm going to call recess for 20 minutes. So if you can be back here, well, if it was actually 22 minutes, let's get back here at 10:20. Thank you.
Oh, Father.
I'm going to call the special council meeting, emergency council meeting back to order. And I believe we had a request.
Yes, during the recess, I had a resident reach out and asked if they could provide their comments via the telephone, so.
And, but I have John, our city clerk that needs to say something first.
Yeah, so Mayor, that what you're talking about is I do have a note for the record. We did receive 3 public comments for the warehouse in opposition, and those names to be read into the record are Catherine Botts, Tim Johns, Karen Sihanek, butcher that a little bit. And then we also received 2 correspondences, one from an attorney group from Alan Matkins and Associates, who expressed concerns regarding noticing and other concerns regarding ongoing projects. We also received another correspondence from Bill Blankenship regarding their ongoing projects and or potential projects in the future. And so those were the short notes that I had for the council and the mayor.
So Mayor, if the council did want to receive additional public comments, the correct action would be to reopen the public hearing and have the individual on the line. You could receive those public comments. And then when you were done, you could close the public hearing again and proceed with council discussion.
So reopen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reopen the public comments, and I believe we have someone on the line that will speak.
Thank you, Mayor.
10:25.
Now is the time for public comment. So if you are on the line for this public hearing, please raise your hand and I will unmute you and I will give you a few short moments. Mayor and council, I'm seeing no raised hands.
I think he's trying to find the number.
Yeah, we'll briefly wait.
So is it via the YouTube that they speak?
Zoom.
Zoom.
The information for the Zoom call is on the agenda. There's actually a clickable link.
How long do we have to wait? Or we can wait for
Up to you.
I'll give them a couple minutes, and if we can't get them on, then I'm going to have to continue.
You're saying the Zoom link is invalid?
There's a Zoom link and then there's a webinar code. If you type in the meeting webinar ID and passcode, everything should click. And I do see participants in the Zoom chat, but I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to for deliberations for the council
10:28.
at 10:28.
You want me to start?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Okay. As I said earlier, I do want to thank everyone for coming out this morning and your input. Your input is extremely important. Your voices are extremely important to any project that comes before the city council. A little bit of history here. I was a member of the General Plan Advisory Committee back in 2009, 2010, before I got elected. And we spent over a year having meetings in establishing the general plan, the growth through 2030 for the city of Hemet. Warehouses were nowhere on our horizon at that point in time. We have, we looked at possible developments. We looked at creating streets. We have a lot of paper streets, as I call paper streets, in our general plan, streets that haven't been built yet, roads that have not been built yet. It's a process that you not only look at from ground level, but also from the 30,000 foot level. No one anticipated at that time the type of growth from Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, Paris, Moreno Valley. Nobody anticipated the warehouses and the effect to the environment, to the economy that would come out into this area. We basically in this valley are a cul-de-sac. We don't have the major freeways, things that you all know and you all realize, and for probably good reasons why you bought here. It's a peaceful little valley. We have not been, discovered by the real world. And when we did, we had a lot of growing pains. We still have growing pains and we have to deal with those, but we need citizen input to do that. So to get on to this one, again, that we received this sheet of paper this morning, which is a listing of the quote warehouse developers in development stages. And off this full page, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, looks like about 10. 3 of the 10 don't apply because they're under the requirements that this emergency moratorium would put in place. They're under 35,000 square feet. There are 2 that actually came to the application period in 2024, only 2. The rest of them have all been on the books since 2021, 2022, and 2023. So they've all been here in one form or the other, working through the process. And there is a process, and that process is clearly defined. This council has been known in the 4 years that most everybody except for me has been on council. I've been sitting up here now for 14 years. We've denied many projects, both residential, commercial, and industrial, not only because of citizen involvement, because it wasn't a good fit for our community and what we want in our community. I know I've talked to some of you about a development that the community of Four Seasons blocked. Now that development was in the county. It was right behind them in Reinhardt Canyon. And while our planning commission actually heard some of the information on it, the city took a position that it's in our sphere of influence. We don't, as a city, don't approve or like the project. Then it was up to the citizens of Four Seasons because it went to county planning. And I was just amazed. I went to the hearings because I just wanted to see government in action, government of the people. And each one of them took their 3 minutes and they got up and they talked, they gave statistics, it was incredible. At that point, when they were all done, Planning Commission of Riverside County denied the project. At that point, the developer had the ability to appeal it to the County Board of Supervisors. So that entire process went through one more time. Four Seasons showed up, they gave their testimonies, they went through, and in the end, County Supervisor said, This is not a project that we are going to approve because of everything that the citizens have said. They don't want it. It does not look like a good project. It's denied. This council did the same thing with a housing project about 6 or 8 months ago on Park and Girard and Menlo. It was denied by Planning Commission. It was appealed to council. And we went through that same process, and we heard testimony from the residents there and said, these are the conditions that we are going to impose on you. Now, both Planning Commission and council can impose conditions on any development that comes before the city council or the Planning Commission. Once we put those conditions on, that development withdrew their application because it didn't pencil for them. And that's basically what it boils down to. Does it pencil? Is it for the developer? We look at it, is it good for the community? How is it going to benefit? Are the areas that are negative, can they be mitigated in some other fashion? And that's what we're here for too. So to get onto this emergency moratorium, I will tell you, I'm against it. There is a process that both Planning Commission and City Council go through to approve individual processes and developments. This particular one, because of the length of time that most of these developments have been in the system, I think we open ourselves up to horrendous potential lawsuits. I am not in a position to vote in favor of any type of putting the city into a financial position of harming us. So with that said, you as citizens, it comes down to you. It comes down to your involvement in processes that affect you and your community. Your voices are heard. We have heard loud and clear. There are good developments, there are poor developments, and then there are developments that should never have come forth, in the first place. So with that, I will just say I am against this emergency moratorium. I think there are better ways to handle this on a case-by-case basis, but also absolutely from a city perspective and from a council perspective, we need to take a step back and look at our general plan and the zoning areas and how they're laid out. And because of things that have happened in the developments and the type of developments that have happened in our community over the last 20 years, because it has been 20 years since we approved this general plan, things have changed. And we need to take that look, not only from ground level and the implications of the environment, of traffic, of air pollution, but also in the 30-foot or 30,000-foot level of that big traffic circulation plan and how we really want to be because we're growing. I mean, we're 90,000 people. There was 35,000 when I moved here. So I've seen a lot of changes go through, not all of them good. But when there's lack of community and lack of citizen involvement, that's when some of the poorer decisions get made. So I will leave it at that. I would ask you to stay involved. Get on the list so you get city council agendas. You don't have to come to all of them. But if there's something that piques your curiosity, listen in, become involved, and let's work through the process as a community and not have to do knee-jerk reactions of an emergency moratorium that will probably bring lawsuits against the city. Thank you.
Carol?
I want to start out by saying I'm not pro-warehouse, I'm not anti-warehouse, I am pro-smart development. I have been asking for the city to do a good neighbor policy similar to what the county and many other jurisdictions have that create development standards and requirements for these types of projects. I requested that on August 13th at City Council and also on September 10th. On September 10th, I also asked for updates regarding AB 98 and the impacts to the city and the projects coming forward. At those two meetings, I also requested that we look into doing a community benefit fee. All of the other jurisdictions surrounding here for these types of projects, there are community benefit fees. Sometimes it's based on the square footage. For instance, in my day job, it's $1 a square foot. Some of them have annual community benefit fees or one-time benefit fees that go to improving infrastructure and combating the impacts. This this Excel table that we received this morning, it has 9 applications on there. 2 are preliminary review applications. They're not entitlements. Only 2 of those go to city council and 5 go to planning commission. But we have findings in our Hemet Municipal Code, Code Section 90-41.5B3 is on change of zones, and that finding is that the proposed change of zone is substantially compatible with the adjacent zoning, established land uses, and or the planned development patterns in the vicinity in the terms of density, development standards, and character. The staff have to make these findings, and the hearing bodies have to adopt those findings. We, as the city council, only get to see 2 of those. For conditional use permits and site development reviews, there are similar findings. But for instance, the site development review, so that's section 90-48.5. C, the design, scale, height, and layout of the project is appropriate for the site and will not unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of the neighboring existing or future developments, will not create traffic or pedestrian hazards, and will not otherwise have a negative impact on aesthetics, health, safety, and welfare of neighboring uses. Item D in that same section, the architectural design of the project is compatible with the character of the surrounding neighborhood and will enhance the visual character of the neighborhood through good aesthetics, use of materials, texture, and color. So we have the tools in our municipal code. Frankly, I believe that the Planning Commission should have been invited to this. They have been requesting a joint meeting with the City Council to discuss warehouses. Most of these projects will just go to them for discussion and approval or denial. And just at the September 3rd meeting, Planning Commissioner Dana Hill had asked for an update, and he continually asked for updates on trying to get some kind of training regarding these warehouses, and that request was denied. So I believe that the Planning Commission should have been invited to this. I am concerned with the timing of this. There's a place for warehouses. It is not next to sensitive receptors. We have to look at everything on a case-by-case basis and evaluate that. We have to look at the studies. There are warehouses that do provide, if it's a fulfillment center, that provides sales tax revenue to the city. In my day job, that saved the city I work for. So it's trying to look at the tenants. We have industrial operations here in town like Ramco. Those are highly skilled, highly paid jobs. So it's trying to look at the tenant, but again, keeping it away from sensitive receptors, understanding that we don't have the infrastructure and how are we going to get there and where is the appropriate location for these types of warehouses. I also want to point out that, you know, some of these projects, it's said that they'll bring property tax revenue, but if they were annexed after 81, 82, there's a master property tax sharing agreement that the county retains 75% of the property tax and the city gets 25. So, I have concerns about that. I want to make sure that any of these uses that come in are not burdening our existing taxpayers. So making sure that they are able to sustain themselves, or make the city whole. 25%. And if it's, just a warehouse and we're not getting any kind of sales tax, I'm concerned about the property tax. Again, I'm concerned about the timing of this a couple weeks before the election. I don't appreciate, politics being brought into it. I don't appreciate, someone being called out as a Democrat in this crowd. This is a nonpartisan position. It's not about what party you're affiliated with. It's about what's doing right for the community. I would suggest that we continue this until December, until after the election. It shouldn't be used as a political tool. And let's see what happens in the elections and then revisit this. I am concerned about this being retroactive. The city is, we are trying to avoid lawsuits. We do have concerns. We are self-insured, and I'm definitely concerned about that. These projects can go through the process, and there are findings that we can utilize and that the Planning Commission can utilize, but I think that there needs to be training for the Planning Commission. I think that the council needs to be provided with information on AB 98 and look into doing this good neighbor policy and community benefit fee. So I can't support it as it is. I believe that it should be continued till December, when we have concluded the elections and the new council will be seated. This is a very serious issue, and it's an issue throughout Riverside County. As mentioned in AB 98, we're not a city listed on there, but we're subject to it. It is very, very restrictive. And so I appreciate that, but I've been asking, and the Planning Commission's been asking, and nothing's occurred until today. So I'm just very concerned about the timing. That's all I have to say.
Mayor, thank you for putting this on the agenda. I share the same sentiments as Councilmember Kendrick. I had a conversation with MSJC about, what would happen if we brought in higher paying jobs here. And quite frankly, MSJC's report is Hemet's not ready for it, because we don't have a lot of people with master's and bachelor's degrees that would be able to fill those jobs. Our demographic is more at a lower skill level, and it would be prudent for us to, especially with these younger folks that are becoming homeless very quickly out of Hemet Unified, that we give them a leg up as far as jobs is concerned. So I understand that it's a low paying job that you're saying, but some of these families out here that I've spoken to have talked about, I'm tired of driving to Paris. I'm tired of driving to Moreno Valley and being stuck in traffic in the morning and then in the evening when we're coming home. And I'd like to spend my $600 to $1,000 in gas money in the city of Hemet rather than just using it just to get to work. And then some of them are saying that extra savings would help them pay for childcare, and they just kept going on and on. I'm going to second her and encourage the council that maybe that was a motion from her, and I will second her. But what I'm expecting, because another thing is it's not even guaranteed that 3 of us are going to be here after December. So I would rather leave it up to the new people, if that happens, for them to move this forward, instead of me making a decision and then putting them instead of just putting it on them. So what I'm going to ask for is all of the findings that the attorney put in the staff report to include. I need a study on, and it's not just for me, it's for the new people that could potentially be here. I want a study on traffic congestion. I want the environment. I want all of these people's reports that they talked about air quality. I want that confirmed. The public health consideration, the land use capability. I want the actual number, approximately the actual number of trucks in and out, hours of operation. I want the actual number of jobs, the direct results to citizens when we're talking about if there's property tax to be had. I'm thinking in terms of these people that save on money on gas, what could that potentially look like as far as sales tax? And the comparatives, I want a comparative study on, I'm gonna think we have like 6,000 houses coming here, potentially 2 vehicles per household, the amount of smog that they could bring versus the amount of smog that the trucks would bring. And then the total number of warehouses that could just fit in here. Because at this point, I don't even know, we keep saying no more warehouses. We don't even have any more space. So if this happens, that's it. And then I want someone to tell us how it's going to be detrimental to their property values. I need a finding on that, as well as trading on AB 98. And I think that would set up the next people that could potentially be here in a way better shape than it's been for us.
Okay, so we do need better economy in Hemet. We have so many people that travel so many miles to find a decent job. With the oncoming of the EVs, there's a proposed vehicle miles traveled. So these people that are driving out of our town to find a job, in the near future, they may be taxed to drive to get to a lower paying job out of the city. So I would like to see some of those people be able to find a job comparable. Like Malcolm said, they may not find a super duper high paying job, but why would we make them travel miles and miles and get taxed to go out of town for a lower paying job when they could find one here? I know there's like square footage that we talked about, and I know you don't want a monstrosity right next to your development. I wouldn't want that either. And as it was said, you can put parameters, you can put conditions on these for the developers. You can ask for a certain setback. You can ask for hours of operation before it's approved. So there's conditions that we can ask for and get approved. And as it was said, most of this goes to the Planning Commission first. So if they see those up front, they have the decision to make. And hopefully we can all agree with their decision, because we want the best for you. We have to watch our budget. We just, in 2016, our city was virtually a thread from being bankrupt. We've come back a long way from that. We have a nice reserve now, but our insurance went up this last year tremendously. And we have to watch out for litigation, things that may come up in the near future. We have a few pending right now that we're concerned about. So, they've said a lot already, and I agree with a lot that they've said. We do hear you, and we appreciate you coming. And I just think that these should be more on a case-by-case basis rather than just, putting it out there flat out, no warehouses. We need to fill in some of our empty buildings. We need to fill our empty spaces. We've got so much possibility in this city for growth of good economy. And I just hope that we get some better businesses in here. I think we're headed in the right direction with that now. We're doing some positive things in the city. We're trying to revitalize the downtown and get more tourism. So we want more businesses. And if we revitalize the downtown and, we have, Diamond Valley Lake, we've got Hemet Lake, we've got hiking trails, we've got all kinds of things, and we want to draw those people in. So we don't want a warehouse city either, really. We want to make it amicable for everybody here, the younger families, the senior citizens. So I just want to say that I think that we need to do it on a case-by-case basis, and your input will be heard, and we are listening to you, and we know how you feel, and we do represent you. And I've been saying that all along. We were voted in by you, and we represent you. So hopefully we can come to an agreement and get some economic growth without ruining the atmosphere and the quality of life here. So thank you.
Well, I already spoke, but I'll add a couple of comments at the end here. I hear you. And this reminds me of when they tried to put a mental health institute in here, and it started off with 200 beds and 3, then 4, then 500 beds. And we were told it wasn't going to happen, and that they were going to put it in no matter what. And they were the county. They had the money to put this building in. And we fought it, and we won. So all I can do is tell you, this has to be a 4/5 vote, and it doesn't look like we're going to get the vote. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I just I implore you to keep fighting. I personally listen. I'm not going to be the SOB that my parents talked about, because I think we should listen to our constituents. We should listen to the citizens. And so we'll see where it goes. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue this item to the first meeting in December.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kendrick to continue this item to the first meeting in December, second by Councilmember Lilienthal. We're going to do a roll call. Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa.
Yes.
Councilmember Lilienthal.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Males.
No.
That motion passes 4-1 to continue the item to the first meeting in December.
Thank you. There be
Point
no
of-
further. I'm sorry.
Point of information.
I'm sorry.
I'm asking for a point of information.
Go ahead.
In that motion, does that include all of the language that we said?
So the motion didn't, it continued the item to December, but I saw the city manager keeping track of the information that you were requesting. So
I will.
if the council would like to direct additional information and have that part of the record, you could do that.
We need this information. We need the traffic congestion, environmental impacts, pretty much all 8 of what you have in your staff report, the actual numbers of trucks, in and out, the hours of operation, the actual numbers of jobs, a comparative study between regular vehicles and trucks, whose gas is cleaner, total number of warehouses, and if we are at capacity, surrounding home values, will they depreciate? They go down, go up? What does that look like for them? Some training on AB 98, even if it's on Zoom. And a joint city council meeting with the planning commission. maybe that doesn't happen before, but that needs to happen.
I'll amend my motion to include everything that Councilmember Lilienthal stated.
You're the second, Lilienthal. So we're going to do a roll call. Councilmember Kendrick,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Councilmember Lilienthal,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Males.
No.
That motion passes 4-1.
There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to the next city council meeting on October 22nd, 2024. Thank you.